Hey everyone, you're here with Mark on Perfect Gardens TV. So, I got another great question, and I've answered this question on the channel a number of different ways. And what I always love about having similar questions is that sometimes they surface in different ways, right? And when they surface in different ways, it gives me an opportunity to describe the problem in a different way. And then it captures another group of people that can understand it because that was the way it speaks to them. And so in this situation, one of my VIP clients was talking about basically after he waters the entire pot, he has to keep the pot damp. If not, drybacks begin to happen and salts begin to build up. For some reason, I don't feel like I've ever used those set of words before. And so, yes, 100%. So I have this one video where I describe how to start a seed in a large pot. And I recommend that you get a small container, shove it down, and just keep the water within that container, right? And then as the plant grows, you want to keep spreading out the watering circle around the stem larger and larger to where it at least meets the leaf edge, if not a little bit past that. But you don't want to water too much past that because if there's no roots in that soil, then the water will begin to get stagnated. And if the water stagnates, then bad bacteria will begin to form in that environment and other diseases or other problems might start to exist. That's why it's important to really only activate your soil. And when I say activate, right, you need water and bacteria for the bacteria to begin to solubilize the dry amendments to make them water soluble for the plants to take them up. But if you introduce water into too much soil where there's no roots growing through it, the water and the bacteria will begin to solubilize the dry amendments. After solubilizing it, if they dry back, the salts will begin to form in the area where you watered where there is no roots growing. Right. Or if you keep rewatering, the stagnated water will build up in those areas and it will become very toxic in some level, whether through bad bacteria forming or just excess nitrates forming. And all those things just lead to you not seeing the full potential of the plant at the end of the grow. So the key to understanding this, though, is that after you do dampen the soil, after the roots are growing in that area, and you'll know the roots are growing based upon, what we have found is it seems like the roots travel with the edge of the leaf, right? Obviously, the roots will get much longer than the actual edge of the leaves themselves, but I've always had this theory around the root length is in some level equal to the surface area of the leaves up top, as so below as above, right? I think the saying is. So it's a theory of mine. Obviously, it'd probably be impossible to measure something like this because you have to actually measure the entire leaf surface dependent to the lengths of the roots. But point of all this is that once you activate your soil and introduce water to it, you have to make sure that the roots are growing into that area because if they're not, once again, toxic things can build up and you will introduce pathogens. Maybe gnats, bugs will start to get attracted to your area. Who knows? But once you introduce that water to that environment has to stay oxygenated and it has to stay moist. If not, salts will begin to build up. If you don't keep it oxygenated, stagnation will form. And all those things find homeostasis when roots are growing through the soil. So that's why it's important when you're using super soils and you're pre-mixing, you don't want to overwater. We've talked about this, that nutrients flushes out. You don't want to water too much of the pot too early because you begin to activate your soil and you don't want to activate it until actual roots are growing through it because it leads to those other problems I described earlier. And once you moisten the soil, you want to keep it damp because if you don't, drybacks will begin to form fairly quickly. And when they do, just like in the synthetic grow, it's very easy to have excess phosphorus and potassium dry back and then solubilize really quickly on you. I see it all the time as you get up on the higher edge of biodynamics and really take into the limits of what it can do. Salts will form fairly quickly.